Too often when someone dies by suicide, other people say, well, that person was weak or that person was crazy. And you couldn't be further from the truth. Shelley, am I right on that?
Right, yes. I think we really need to realize that when people are thinking about wanting to end their life, that they're feeling like nothing's going right in their life. They're feeling a lot of depression, agitation. Things have changed in their perspective where they don't feel like that it's ever going to be different. Now, you and I know it can be very different, that there is help out there, that we aren't going to feel this pain for the rest of our lives. But that's how it feels when you're struggling with depression. And so that is not something you're going to be able to snap yourself out of. You need to talk to somebody and get an evaluation.
How often does, and I've over the years I covered stories about suicides. Maybe I purposely hid it because I just didn't think the public should know about it, but I don't recall a particular one where a person was taking depression medicine or anxiety medicine. There was a couple that I know for sure. One, no names mentioned, had just received a 4-year scholarship to MIT. Brilliant young man, and out of the blue, he died by suicide. I mean, is this more often the case, or is it more often because of they stopped taking their medication for anxiety and depression?
Right. When we stop taking medication, that can certainly be a high risk factor, because all of a sudden what was helping to monitor and manage your moods is taken out, and we start to think, our thinking becomes skewed again at times. I think we have to be careful of what we see in the media, or what gets all the attention, because that can skew our own perceptions on what the issue is. And again, rarely does it happen just out of the blue. There are usually warning signs. 90% of people who attempt have diagnoses of depression or anxiety.
So, but it's not always the case. I mean, you don't have to be on depression medicine or anxiety medicine to be a candidate.
No, in fact, some people who are depressed and anxious and not on medication are more at risk because they're not treating this medical issue that
the chemical
they're
imbalance
with.
in the brain.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit now. We kind of alluded to it a little bit. What happened recently down at NIU, Northern Illinois University, and a year ago down at Virginia Tech. Here, I mean, we hear of suicide, and oftentimes it's a one-person incident.
Yeah.
NIU was not that.
No.
Virginia Tech was not that. Is this something that you as a clinical worker is going, oh my God, this is a bad trend, this is a trend that is growing, or am I making something out of this that I shouldn't?
It's most definitely on people's radar screen. As a university, of course, we're looking at measures we need to be taking. Traditionally, when we look at suicide and somebody killing other people, we've called that suicide homicide. We've seen that most commonly in domestic violence, where the abuser kills his partner and then often himself. And we're starting to see that. I think there's a difference between these two issues. Somebody who is quietly struggling and in pain versus somebody who then decides to take that pain and spread that. I think there's different things going on there.
So this isn't a trend that clinical workers, therapists, psychologists, so on and so forth, say that this is a trend that we should be more alert to, or am I understating?
I think because it's not just Virginia Tech or NIU, we had this situation at the mall. You know, we're starting to see this, and we get the contagion effect that is similar to suicide in these situations, where somebody sees this, they see all the media attention, they think this is something that is going to memorialize them, maybe, and so. We are probably going to see some more of these situations. I think that's why it's integral to people knowing the warning signs and not being in denial when they see changes in behavior or things that aren't something that we usually, they're atypical behavior.
Yeah, and in defense of the media, I must say that where I worked,
Yeah.
we did not cover suicides
Right.
unless, and you had to have that unless.
Yes.
And we had an incident, I remember, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, and it started in Appleton, and then it was like a ripple effect in the water.
Yeah.
We had a student at an Appleton High School,
Right.
died by suicide,
Right.
and we had one in Kaukauna and Menasha, and
Right.
it just kind of spread through the whole valley.
Right.
Well, then, we couldn't ignore it,
Right.
because, as you said, it's a contagion thing.
Right.
Should parents talk more to their kids when something like this happens?
Absolutely.
Or
Yes,
what?
thank you. That's a great point. Because the contagion effect is real. Just like we need to be talking to our kids about drugs, alcohol, sexual behavior, we need to be talking to them about when you're not feeling okay, when you're feeling really down, what do you do? And teaching our kids coping skills. At the university, we're seeing the resilience, and the coping skills of our students coming in quite diminished. Parents need to be helping their kids develop these coping skills. On the other end, for our 65 and up, for the children of that generation to be listening to their parents when their parents talk about how sad they are, or we need to listen and validate that, and really look at is this person depressed? What type of help can we give them?
Let's talk about the university.
Okay.
Do you see, and I know we can't use names, and
Right.
heaven forbid, but do you as a clinical worker see an increase of concern on your part and your fellow workers,
Yeah.
where there's more students, regardless of age, they're possible candidates? Is this a growing risk?
Nationally, counseling centers have seen the acuity of students increase over the years, mainly because, like I said before, students coming into college now haven't had any experiences with failure, have not had to resolve conflicts.
Is it fair to say they've been sheltered too much?
Shelter too much. And now they're coming to school and they're having to do a lot of this on their own, and their coping skills aren't there to help them. They feel overwhelmed. They feel like it's the end of the world. They don't know what to do. So
Mom and dad aren't there all of a sudden. No?
right, or they're on the cell phone with their mom and dad.
So what do I do as a parent to correct that? Well, I mean, how can I fix this, so to speak, for my daughter or my son?
Right. I think most definitely at a young age, helping them to develop communication skills, that failure is a part of life, that we survive failure, that it's not the end of the world, that it's okay, that we move on. There's different things as far as just talking with each other, spending time together, and letting your kids figure things out.
So what do you do at the university if a student comes in? Let's say that let me go back 50 years, back into college, 40 years, and close to 50. And I'm back in school, and I got issues. Mm-hmm. What does Shelley tell me that I need to do? I mean, I'm feeling overwhelmed. The studies, I don't have mom and dad to lean on to help me do my math or whatever the subject is. What do I do?
Well, first I'm going to assess, and I think as clinicians we've really changed our ways of how we assess students and their situations. And then it's really going to be specific to that person. Some of our students are dealing with relationship issues. So is it boundary setting? Is it communication skills? Sometimes stress management. So I'm going to be teaching them relaxation techniques. I'm going to be teaching them how to think about their situation differently. What are some negative thinking that they have, and how can we challenge that negative thinking, and how can we replace it with more positive thinking? So
how do you tell the other students? I mean, is there an average percentage of students per campus that are potential candidates for suicide?
Well, based on national statistics, about 22% of students are struggling with depression. About 10.
1 out of 5?
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then 10% have seriously thought about suicide. That does not mean that they've attempted. Maybe 1% have attempted. Still high.
That's one's too many.
Yes, yes. So what we're trying to do is train friends, personnel, staff. We have over 550 gatekeepers trained on campus to identify students in distress and to link them to help. Nationally, because what we're doing on campus was part of a federal grant we received, the Garrett Lee Smith Memorial Act. Nationally, we've trained over 27,000 gatekeepers on college campuses alone. We've trained over 55,000 people nationally to be aware of the signs, to talk to that person, and to link them to help is really the only way we're going to start to turn this around.
You've got all the gatekeepers nationally, but
Yes.
I mean, all it takes is one student at UW-Oshkosh,
Yeah.
and it slips through the cracks, so to
Sure.
speak. Do you tell, do you like have a general assembly at the beginning of the year with the freshman class, whatever, and say, okay, if you need help and you start feeling depressed, we're here.
Right. We send out a mass mailing to all the students with a personalized letter to them, including our Life Happens brochure and our yellow ribbon card, letting them know of how to get help at the counseling center and with the national and the county crisis line numbers. We talk to them when they're coming in orientation about the counseling center. We have posters up, and we've trained all the offices, all our advisors, all our residence life staff, admissions, people all around who have more contact with the students so they understand.
Very briefly, I have students in high school that are going to college. Anything I can do to get them so they can accept failure better than they have up until now, because I've hovered over them and
Right.
kept them from getting hurt?
Right. I'd open them up to experiences where they might experience some failure.
And
or
let
not
them fail.
Let them fail. And talk about it. And talk about how failure often leads us to learning to do better next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shelley, thank you so very much
Sure,
for your
thanks for
time. I really
having me.
appreciate it. There are many myths about suicide that run rampant around the country, and if you ever have any thoughts at all that someone you know, be it yourself, be it your son or daughter, be it your best friend, be it your wife, husband, grandfather, grandmother, and they're thinking about suicide, get help. All you got to do is call 911. They will lead you to the right people, or they will get the right people for you. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again.